Welcome, Tony. Tony, why don't you start off by telling everyone a little bit more about who you are and what you do?
So obviously, I'm Tony Banks. I'm the founder and chairman of the Ballahousie Care Group, which is a group of 26 care homes based in Scotland. As you said, we have 1,000 residents and employ 1,500 staff, and we have a fair geographic spread in Scotland. I started the business way back in 1991, and what happened then is that I saw an opportunity when Margaret Thatcher was closing all the long stay hospitals, quite rightly so. These Victorian institutions were starting to get closed. And also the industry was very much a sort of bed and breakfast seaside resort industry and was full of scandal. And it was time that this industry actually became an industry, because it was very much a man and pop business back then. And it has very much matured over the last 30 years. So in 1991, we decided, my wife at the time decided that we want to get into care. She was a nurse. I'd been involved in finance and property. Mm-hmm. So we felt the two things together were a marriage made in heaven. And I saw an opportunity in where I lived in Scotland at the time to convert an old Victorian mansion house into my first care home. And I bought the house in 91, obtained all the planning permissions, did the build out, and started the business, the actual operating business, in 1992. And we're now at a 30-year anniversary. And from there, I built that business over the next 30 years. And I made a very conscious decision not to make it a UK-wide business. I made a very conscious decision to stay in Scotland. Mm-hmm. I believe I could have been in and out of this industry several times over that 30 years. But that's not what I want to do. I want to make sure it fitted with my lifestyle, my family life, and to make sure that we'd keep the business as a sustainable business. I think in that 30 years, I've seen a lot of businesses come and go, large and small, who, for whatever reasons, made fairly fatal business decisions. So I grew the business by acquisition and also by building new care homes. And we successfully integrated homes that were formerly run by charities, formerly run by local authorities, homes that had been in administration, homes that we'd bought from some of the larger corporates who were disposing of assets for strategic reasons. And we managed to build the business to where we are today. Over that period, there has been a number of adverse situations. We had the finance crisis back in 2008, 2009. Mm-hmm. We had difficulties with the banking after that in 2010 onwards. We had obviously COVID, and we're still here. And I like to think that's down to some of the decisions that I and my management team have made over that 30-year period. And, if I look at my biggest achievement, people say to me, what is the biggest achievement? It's still being here, I think. The fact is we're still trading, we're thriving, we've endured a lot, there's been adversity, the brand is strong, we've built a strong brand, we are very much integrated into the communities that we serve, we're integrated into the fabric of Scottish care, we're working with local and central government. So we really have tried to make ourselves available to everybody and anybody, and that's from academia to government, to say, look, we want to be true partners. And this word partnership gets used far too much. I think we've tried to be true partners and try to innovate and look at what does the future look like, because the industry is now mature from where it was 30 years ago. And as I said, there's a lot of people came and gone over that 30-year period. The maturity in the industry has tackled what was demand of our customers during that 30 years. And as everybody knows, over the next 10, 15 years, that the demands and expectations will only get higher. And we've got to deal with the funding of that. And that's always been an issue in the care business. Yeah. Some of the issues that are getting kicked around by government now, all governments, they just keep kicking the can down the road. They've not really addressed this. And this is going to become a very serious issue. And it is becoming a serious issue because care, like all industries, is facing a number of crises. And one of those is definitely staffing. And that is due to the COVID, due to Brexit, due to world and global factors. And there's a huge shortage of staff in all industries. And government needs to address this, and they need to address how we can get funding into the sector and make care an attractive sector for people to come and work in. And I think it is an attractive sector because, we obviously concentrate on care as the core element of what we do, but we offer a number of job opportunities and career opportunities. And that's from people that work in property, finance, administration, marketing, sales. There's a huge variety of what we offer, and not just caring. But often I think that people that have maybe trained in the NHS and see a career path in the NHS, they see it as very much incremental steps and maybe slow progress, where somebody could come into the private care sector or the voluntary care sector and really accelerate their career promotion because of the opportunities that are within these sectors.
Tony, that's great. And tell me, if I can just go back to that first care home. So you mentioned that you were in property. Obviously, a number of people from property will switch into operating care homes. But tell me about that first one, how it went and what you learned from it.
Well, that first property, what I meant was being in property. I understood how to finance property. I understood how to do buildings and in terms of extend them and refurbish them. So when we bought it was a very interesting period actually, because I think we, believe it or not, started with £150,000, and the bank gave us £750,000 loan. So sort of gearing at the time, it was quite, I was quite pleased. It was 5 times our money.
Yes.
and the bank believed in us. Whilst we were going through the build period, there was the ERM crisis. Now, interest rates at those back in 91 were something like 11%. So huge interest rates. And we still managed to make the numbers work. But the ERM crisis was a really, and that's the exchange rate mechanism.
Yeah.
The Chancellor at the time put the interest rates up 5% in one day. And I just remember thinking, well, I'm just going to drive past the bank and throw the keys in, because this is not sustainable. We cannot run this business at 60% interest rates. And that evening, I sat down with a stiff drink and then thought, no, this is not sustainable. There's no way this interest rate will. And I think the next day they took them back down to 11%. But we made it work. And I remember, as time went on, we built it and we opened it. And I was only 29 at the time and my wife was only 27. We're very young to get involved in care.
Right.
And we're trying to sell, if you like, we're trying to sell care to an elderly population. And they quite rightly would think we're quite suspicious. But because we were sincere and we believed in what we were doing, we managed to fill that first care home. And we built it at a standard in those days, which was far superior to a lot of the other stuff that was out in the marketplace. And very much we made sure that we could deliver the best service we could. And we actually, at that time, we converted the attic of that building to live in. And we had one child, and my wife was pregnant at the time. We had a second child and lived above the shop, if you like. And, you were everything in those days. Your chief bottle washer, you sent invoices, you went to cash and carry, you cut the grass, you did everything because you couldn't afford the manpower. And obviously, being quite young at the time, you had plenty of energy. And then, I think that became successful, and I saw opportunities that I didn't just want to stay as one care home. I thought, I'm bored now. I want to try and grow this business.
Okay.
But grow at a pace that I felt was comfortable for me. Again, I had the support of the banks because we were producing the numbers. And interest rates, I remember doing an interest rate deal where we fixed the interest rate at 9.9%. And I thought I'd want to watch. I really did. I thought 9.9%. I mean, now people would die if you told you
100%. Yes,
9.9. But we actually, I was so happy that it was single digits. It was under, at that level. So it was a really interesting thing.
And in terms of, it's very interesting to learn about this first home, and you were under the particular financial and economic conditions that you were facing then. And obviously, as you mentioned, you did well. What was it that enables you, do you think, to do well over that first home? And who did you learn from, or where did you learn from? Did you have someone who, at that very stage, you said you were young, was there someone who helped you out? Did you have a mentor, or did you literally learn as you went along?
There's two things. I think, first of all, I bought there was one book on the marketplace about care homes in those days. And I bought the book and I read it cover to cover. And I had a friend of my father's daughter had run a care home, and they let me have a look around. But I was very clear, I got all the legislation at the time, and I studied it, I understood what they had to deliver, and I just sort of worked it out myself. I was very confident that my wife would build a team that would be able to deliver care, and I was confident that I can do the other stuff around that, and I think that was it. So I think when I started to expand the business, that's when I realised at the end of the day, my one brain cell needed some help. And I started to go to join business organisations, and I started to network. And I remember a friend of mine said, "Why you go all these events? I mean, you sell elderly care. If you were an architect or a plumber or an accountant, I can understand it." And I just said, I want to listen to people's stories, and you always pick up that gem from somebody that you can apply in business, because the principles of business are virtually the same across all industries. It's how you apply them. And we just happen to be, selling or providing care. I look at things like a hotel. Hotels have very many synergies with the care. Apart from in a hotel, you don't get the personal side of it, the personal care. So I did start going to a lot of business meetings. I did start meeting a lot of people. I'd go to a lot of dinners and got my name known. A fairly friendly sort of person. I tend to get on with most people. Enjoy a good time, enjoy fun. I don't think life should be all about fun. And I always also made that commitment that the day I got out of my bed and didn't want to go to work was the day that I would give up. And I admit, even to this day, I get up every day and just basically say, bring it on. What's happening today? I thoroughly enjoy it, and I thrive on it, and I get excited about it.
That's wonderful to hear. And tell me again, if I can just draw you back to that second home from the first one, about what you maybe learned or did differently, or tell me how it kind of progressed onto that second home. We can talk about further homes after
when I made the decision to expand the business and buy the second home, I probably couldn't have done a more difficult job, picked a more difficult situation. One of the local authorities that nearby was selling off some of its care, not all of them, but some of its care facilities. And I decided to go and look at one of them and eventually put a bid in, and the bid got accepted. But part of that was that we had to, for 3 months, we had to keep the local authority employees on site. At the same time, we were trying to recruit to replace them. Now, back in that day, we could not offer the terms and conditions that the local authority employees were. And, it was a very difficult situation, because it turned into a them and us with the staff, and, very resentful from my staff because we're not getting as much money as the local authority, and the conditions were not good in terms of the same sort of package. So it was a really difficult period. But I was so determined. And I knew that 3-month period, we just had to get through it, and it would all work out fine. And eventually it did. We got through that period, and it was just from a man management perspective, I think that was what made it very difficult. But where that home is, and it's still one of a good performing home. It was in a fantastic location. It was well established. Yes, we had plans to refurbish it and to do things, because it was getting a bit tired. But that was a sort of, where most people either build a new one or buy an existing privately operated one. I went to bought a local authority one, which is probably part of the course for me. I don't seem to do things easy. I quite like the hard way.
Okay, and then from there, obviously, over the next 30 years, has been a steady growth for you. You've, as you mentioned from the top of this episode, acquisitions and new builds. So tell me about the process of either acquiring or doing this new build, in terms of where you start, what you're looking for, and kind of what you've gained, what you've learned from doing it over the last 30 years.
Yeah, I think a new build is very different to an acquisition, because a new build has no history. It's just a building. And we're in this world now where new care homes are popping up and they have the jacuzzis and all the shiny bells and whistles. But I've always said buildings don't deliver care; it's people that deliver care. Buildings help, the ergonomics of a building help, but it's people. So when I was looking at acquisitions, the agents at the time used to get very frustrated with me because they knew that I was on the acquisition trail. They would phone you with an opportunity. And the first thing I would say is send me the accounts. I always want to look at the numbers because numbers would tell me if this business was being run efficiently or not. And if 9 times out of 10, I could pick through the numbers and see where the savings were to be made. And then you have to look at, how people run businesses as a manpower running a business is very different from a corporate running a business. So the numbers would tell me everything. And then obviously I would look at location, opportunities to extend to make the home bigger. What was the surrounding market like? And, what uniqueness would that home have? So would it be in a community that nobody else would come and build or open up beside you to compete because it was a smaller community and the home was well established, or was there opportunities to make that home better because the grades weren't very good, or there was the number of beds that you could add on. So there was always something. I was looking for something that where was the added value? Where was the value that I could add to that business?
And if you were acquiring already existing home, when would the alarm bells go for you saying, this is not going to be the right fit for us?
I think usually the numbers, if there's nothing you can do with the numbers, and it was really a tight ship. Secondly, if the reputational damage to that business was so bad that we couldn't turn it around. The only way you turn it around is by closing it probably and then reopening it after a refurb. Right. So there were different factors. What was the demography of the area that you were looking at? So there was a huge number of factors. Each home is unique and each location is unique. So when you're doing a new build, that location is unique to, say, where there's an existing home. So you're always looking at where you can add. It's all about adding value. How can you increase standards and add value?
And in terms of the obstacles, let's talk about over there. You referred to a number of examples again at the top of this episode, but kind of things that over the course of the last 30 years have really kept you awake at night. Bought a few sweats, night sweats. I don't know whether you have night sweats or not, but those kind of times where you felt you were really under the cosh.
Yeah, interest rates going up 5% in one day. That was definitely a sleepless night that night. I think there's no doubt we have very short-term policies from government. So having to continually change what we're doing because of government. Right. So it doesn't matter what political colour, what this industry doesn't have is a long-term strategy. They work on a 5-year plan basically because that's all they're elected for. So continually government change was definitely an issue. And then regulatory change, different regulatory bodies. I think over my time, I think it's been about 6 or 7 over those 30 years, looked after various parts of the care industry. And then this desire for increasing building standards, which is fine in itself, and I understand why. But to me, the focus was on the wrong area. It's been on the wrong area. Very much the focus in particularly the last 10 years has been on the property. It's not been on the people. And this is the problem. Social care staff have felt undervalued for years. And I would say virtually 30 years, but very much so in the last 15, I feel it's got worse. So the sector has not been attractive for people to come and work in because government have focused and regulators have focused far too much on buildings and policy and process, as opposed to training a workforce, a highly skilled workforce that we can give a very clear career path to, create ambition within that workforce, and then let the workforce increase the standards. The buildings don't increase the standard of care. The policy, you get all the policy you like, they don't increase the standards. They think they do. It's the people that will improve the standard.
And Tony, do you have in your mind, if you were in charge, how you would turn that around?
I very much would focus on the people. At the end of the day, we can't train as much as e-learning has its place. You cannot be on hands-on training. We have colleges that are inaccessible, particularly to rural communities, for people to get to do formal training. the care business can't afford to let staff off for training purposes because one, they can't afford to pay them because they're paying double wage, somebody working, somebody in training. But more importantly, they probably can't replace them at this moment in time because there's such a crisis of employment. So to me, this about changing the focus to the people, and this starts in education about the valuable role that people play within society. Now, if one thing that COVID has probably taught us all is that whether you're a butcher, baker, candlestick maker, you play a very important role in society. And we saw that through the pandemic, whether it be lorry drivers, supermarket workers, people were starting to value more these individuals. And I think this is what we need to focus on in the care industry, is to say, look, this is a professional industry. And we are, unfortunately, the feeling is that we are the poor second cousins to the NHS. And everybody looks at the NHS, and which has some very, very good points, but has a lot of bad points. The money that organisation swallows up is huge, absolutely huge. And I do not think that as a country, we get value for money from the NHS. And I don't mean that from the people. I just think for things like its purchasing, all that sort of stuff. So I think there's a whole focus needs to change, that social care has to be on a par with working with the NHS. And that means it should be funded to the same level as the NHS. So the NHS, we can offer the same terms and conditions for our staff, but opportunity. So the focus has to be on the people now and how we deliver care in the future, because obviously technology plays a big part in care now, and we need to be more efficient on how we use our people, because obviously we're going to have less people. The fact the demographics will prove that in itself. The baby boomers are all now retiring and becoming elderly themselves. So there is a real crisis ahead for the industry. But my criticism is to government, and that's all governments, local government, and central government, whether it be devolved or whether it be Westminster, is that they need to actually take this thistle and actually address it. And I think if you go back through previous manifestos at general elections, UK general elections, this has always been, social care's always been in the manifesto and on the agenda, and then it gets lost. It just gets lost. And then the next 5 years later, it'll pop its head up again, and then it will get lost. So as a country and as government, they really need to take a close look at this. And that we've got this recent increase in NIC to go to health and social care. Well, let's see how it's delivered, and how is it going to impact on social care? Because unless we get a new model, and a new model which involves technology, better trained staff, better terms and conditions for staff, we're still going to have the same issues going forward.
And Tony, what is it you think about you as a person that has enabled the group to get to where it has?
Well, if I'm nothing else, I'm tenacious. I'm very much, when there's adversity, I usually come to my own. That's when the captain gets back on the bridge of the ship. But I think the other thing is that I care, and that's, I've got a passion for care. It comes from my heart, and I think this is not just about making money. This is about delivering a service and serving communities. I passionately care about what we do and who we do it for, and the people that work for me. And I feel we're at this crossroads in society where we need to understand where our priorities lie. I think the Ukrainian situation has proven this. We have a situation where Poland is taking in millions of refugees, and the UK is caught up in bureaucracy to try and let people in. I mean, it's pathetic. So, where's our priorities? And it's got to be our fellow man and our fellow human being. And, and it's our job to make sure that the disadvantaged, if you like, for want of a better word, are cared for. So my biggest thing is that I actually give a monkeys about what we do and about the industry. And I'm not sure that I'm sure there are a number of people like me, but I'm not sure if we're really getting the focus right.
And if you were going to go back to when you were, 27, 29, wasn't it, when you set up your first home, and you were looking back from where you are now, would you advise your younger self to do anything differently, to provide yourself with some particular counsel or advice that you would have felt you would have benefited from? And I'm thinking about those who are maybe listening, who kind of might be in the same kind of scenario.
Yeah.
A small operator who are looking to expand. What advice might you give?
Well, I think first of all, I looked at myself back then. I don't think I could have picked a more difficult industry to get involved with. This is a very difficult industry. 24/7, 365, very, very difficult industry. And I'm sure there's a lot easier ways to make money and enjoy your life. I do think that we're in a situation now where it's there will be new opportunities in the market for lots of different reasons. And I think people should not be frightened to take advantage of these new opportunities. What we can't do is keep on doing what we've been doing. And we have to look at the financial situation. So I would say that what we need to look at is different parts of the market and how we deliver to those different parts of the market. And what do I mean by that? The market is not just about elderly. We seem to concentrate on elderly, but there's a huge market out there of individuals that need care. And it's how we deliver it to them and what's the most efficient, cost-effective way. There is too much politics getting played within care and always has done. And I think that, to be effective, they've got to try and, you'll never remove politics completely. That's how you're a big P or a small P. But we need to make sure that people can take advantage of the opportunities to deliver a service. It doesn't matter who provides that service, whether it be public, private, or voluntary. It doesn't matter as long as it's that we get the service delivery right, and that's generally going to be two people. So I would it do it all again? Probably. Would it do it differently? In parts. Am I proud of what I've done? Absolutely. Am I proud of the people that have worked with me over the last 30 years? Absolutely. Have we given communities not just care, but job opportunities and economic benefits? Yep. So there's a lot of ticks in there and a lot of things that I'm proud of that I've delivered, but also proud of my colleagues throughout the care industry, what they deliver.
And Tony, what is kind of top of your priority list right now? What's kind of, when you wake up in the morning, is like one thing on your mind for the group?
No, there's several, obviously, but the main crisis that I think that we need to face, and the one that does every day, I have to consider, is staffing, because there is a crisis in staffing. COVID's not went away either, and that's still having a massive impact, not just in care, right across the board. So, I think what we have to do also is take a step back and say, what does the next 10 years look like? Reevaluate your portfolio. Really reevaluate how you're delivering care, and look at how you want to deliver it in the future and where the opportunities are.
Is there anything that you feel that you've not covered today on this episode that you feel you would like to mention? Anything that you feel you may have missed out today?
Well, I think that what we've got to understand is that the care sector is a huge part of our economy, and I think the one thing I wanted to say to people, it's a very rewarding industry. It's hugely rewarding. As much as I say, there's a lot, it's a very difficult industry. There's nothing more rewarding than getting that letter from a family member or a loved one thanking us for what we've done. And that's, and that makes me very proud of my company and of the staff. And, that's the one thing. It's a rewarding industry. And I think people need to understand that. I've maybe painted a bit of a bleak picture there, but it's not. We do a fantastic job. And I'm really pleased that I've spent 30 years of my life helping to deliver care to thousands and thousands of people.
Tony, thank you so much for being on the Care CEO Success Stories podcast.
Thanks, Adam.